2025 has been a wild season thus far, producing some iconic moments such as Todd Kidd's back-to-back Ajax 200 wins, Diego Orkedi becoming the active Ajax Cup Series all-time wins leader in West Virginia, Shane Park scoring his first oval win in nearly 2,000 days at the Stoneyard, and Braden Bennett scoring his first Cup Series victory at Disney in just his 22nd start to snap Toyota's drought. If you want to cop any of those replica diecasts, head on over to Circle B Diecast / Plan B Sales and use coupon code ASCA to get free shipping on any orders $20 or more at checkout. Hello and welcome back to another edition of the ASCA Weekly Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Fallon, back in here with another episode. And boy, we have a lot to break down after the West Coast swing just wrapped up in Denver. So obviously we have some major silly season news we need to get to. Right off the bat, you already know Chris Barrymore just inked a massive contract to join Ronnie Woods Motorsports for the 2026 campaign and beyond. We'll be talking about Diego Orkedi's massive championship statement that he made, surpassing Greg Healy with 51 laps to go, driving off and snapping the Ronnie Woods Motorsports win streak to get himself right back in the title fight. We got to talk about Tony Del Valle, the Craftsman Series points leader. He was the Craftsman Series points leader. He lost that this week. Is he starting to crack underneath the pressure? And then we'll be previewing what should be an extremely hectic and chaotic race weekend from Ajax Super Speedway as we really enter the sharp end of the campaign. It's crunch time, folks, and we got it all covered for you on this edition of the ASCA Weekly Podcast. But before we get into it, we got to shout out the swords from your partners, Rowdy Energy. You already know. Click that second link in the description box. Go cop yourself Rowdy Energy to help you stay awake throughout the rest of this podcast. And then Circle B Diecast / Plan B Sales. Want free shipping on any orders $20 or more. Use coupon code ASCA when you shop at Circle B Diecast / Plan B Sales. And hey, if you want to cop a replica Chris Barrymore diecast, they have those coming out very shortly already for the 2026 campaign. If you want to get your hands on that before the ASCA even gets their hands on it, go over to Circle B Diecast / Plan B Sales and go cop yourself one. So yeah, shout out Rowdy Energy, shout out Circle B Diecast / Plan B Sales, and yeah, let's get into it. So we'll take a pivot this weekend. Normally we start by breaking down the cup race, and of course it was a massive cup race, so we'll break that down as well pretty soon. But we got to talk silly season first, right off the bat. And Chris Barrymore, the excuses are out the window. So in case you've been living under a rock, the 27-year-old inked a 4-year, $56 million contract to drive the number 5 car. You heard that correctly. Not the 88. Barrymore will be behind the wheel of the number 5 car for the 2026 campaign and beyond for Ronnie Woods Motorsports next season. That's who they went with to fill that seat. And reports say that Ronnie Woods Motorsports had their eyes on Chris Barrymore pretty much, from the second that they saw he was a free agent. They wanted to get him on the team. And it was all going to come down to those first 6-7 races for Ross Jackson. They said that they had kind of made up their decision by the Stoneyard. They had seen enough then that they weren't going to end up bringing Jackson back. And obviously it's a tough break for Jackson, and you really hope that he can find a ride soon. He's a former Craftsman Series champion, 4-time series winner. He certainly deserves something. He's only 24 years of age. Will just be 25 next season. So kid's got a lot of potential, but he certainly hasn't. I would say a lot of people expected more from him. They expected him to be winning races by now, considering he is the same age as a Shane Park. Considering Laquan Scranton had already won 5 races, and he's 22 years old. Obviously, he's indefinitely suspended as well, but you get the point. They expected Jackson to be winning races by now, and he just hasn't shown taking that next step of development through from his rookie season to his sophomore year, and even this year he's 14th in points, still wildly inconsistent, and just hasn't really lived up to expectations. Which for some people they would say, well, why would you sign a guy like Barrymore who also has failed to live up to expectations? Barrymore, it was at his own father's team. That was his team. Especially once Caleb Henderson Jr. started to fall off and Ryan Dixon began to slump and he began to fall off. 2021, that was his team. He finally snapped his 43 race winless drought in the Northern 200. He was 23 years old, going on 24, new Mustang coming up. Barrymore seemed to be a championship contender heading into 2022. But the team did make a critical decision in that silly season to sign Cameron Atwood. And that was more so a decision by Ford just to keep him in-house. They got him in the 17 with Caleb Henderson and Caleb Henderson Jr. and TJ Barrymore Racing parting ways. So they put Atwood in the 17. And, the rest is history. Although, to Barrymore's credit, he did contend for a championship in 2022. That was by far his best season, but he still finished sixth in points and really went. He was beast mode. Those first 5 races, he won 2 out of the first 5. He led the points for the first time in his career. And then after that, he just kind of fell off a cliff. And Atwood began his rise the second half of the season. And obviously from there, the rest is history. So, Barrymore basically got shoved out of his own father's team. And some will have their qualms about him pouting, quote unquote, and what he did to get out of his father's organization. And that's neither here or there. I'm not going to judge a driver for doing what they think is best for his career. Obviously, he ends up declining his driver option. And, there's a massive sweepstakes. You got Tico Bauer Motorsports, who many thought were the front runners. Dexter Andrews Motorsports was in the running for a bit. And then, obviously, Ronnie Woods Motorsports. And that's who ends up signing him. And we heard a report last week that Tico Bauer Motorsports had actually offered Barrymore $16 million a season to come drive that number 14, and Barrymore said no thanks. He took $2 less million, which Barrymore at this point can probably wipe his ass with $2 million. He's making $11 million this year as it stands. He took $2 million less to sign with Ronnie Woods Motorsports, and this is a move that signals. Well, I think we'll start with the Ronnie Woods Motorsports perspective. This is a move that signals that they are all in. They have, I would say, one of the strongest and most talented, if not the most talented lineup we've ever seen in the modern era of the ASCA. It's certainly up there with their lineup for a few years with Todd Kidd, Jimmy Hood, Randall Woods, and Bryn Renard. 2 we already know Cup champions. Todd Kidd, easily the best driver to not win a Cup championship right now, and the points leader right now with 5 races to go could very well win it this year. 15 career wins, and then Bryn Renard, all the crown jewel trophies that he has. Incredible driver lineup that was. This rivals that, except I would say that, while Kidd was beginning his career, he hadn't really developed into obviously the incredible elite talent that he is today. You could argue that's the Colin Ward of the team now. Shane Park, I think we know that he is championship caliber. That team is just making, the 24 team that is making too many mistakes. They got to clean that up. heading into next year, and I think they will as they get more experience. But and then Colin Ward has been outstanding his rookie season, one of the best in the modern era. And then you add a Chris Barrymore into the mix. And I think for Barrymore, the issue has never been talent for him. It really hasn't. It's never been talent. In fact, Ronnie Woods Motorsports himself, way back when, someone pulled this up back in 2019 in a radio interview. Ronnie Wood said, if I could sign him to my team, I would. And here we are, all these years later. He got that opportunity. Barrymore hit the open market, and Wood snatched that up. $14 million a season. He enters making more money than Todd Kidd will be next year, believe it or not, because Kidd's $90 million contract doesn't even kick in until the 2027 campaign. So he enters making the most money of anyone on the team by far heading into next season. He thinks, Ronnie Woods, that is, believes that in the right equipment, Barrymore can compete and win a championship. And I think that as it stands, all four of these drivers can compete and win a championship as soon as next season. Obviously, that all depends on if Ronnie Woods Motorsports can nail the turbo hybrid engine regulations, which remains to be seen. But obviously, I mean, it's Ronnie Woods Motorsports. They're definitely going to nail them. I think they could be a little behind to start next season, behind some of the teams that have already focused on the new regs. But it's Ronnie Woods Motorsports. They're going to throw money at the problem. They're going to figure it out. They just proved that by signing Chris Barrymore to all this money. And, so as an organization standpoint, they're all in. They're all in for a championship. That's what this move signifies. If they weren't all in, if they thought they were still in the rebuilding stage, they would have stuck with Ross Jackson. But it's really interesting to kind of see how much this team has changed just since Jimmy Hood retired in 2022. Because you look back at that, the lineup that year was Todd Kidd, Doug Bowden, Bryn Renard, and Jimmy Hood. Bowden obviously was let go at the end of his contract. He goes back to his father's team. We don't really need to talk about that. That's certainly been a mixed bag so far. Obviously, the right move, though, from a Ronnie Woods perspective, that move just did not work out. And then Jimmy Hood goes off to broadcasting, now the Hall of Fame. So they bring in, crucially, Shane Park. They poach him from Snoots Enterprises. And, of course, they call up Ross Jackson to replace Jimmy Hood in the number 88. That was critical. And now, Bryn Renard gone, off to Michael Y Racing. They call up Colin Ward. So it's been a nice mix of free agent signings and, honing in and developing their own talent. Ronnie Woods Motorsports, regardless, they have a rolling next season. And I don't think there's any doubt that of any organization, they have the four most talented. They have the, I wouldn't say they're obviously not the four most talented drivers, but they have the most complete driver lineup of any organization on the grid next season. So I can't wait. We've seen a lot of Cup teams this silly season go young with Dexter Andrews Motorsports signing Ian Romo and Orkedi Rose Racing even going for Graham Darty. There's rumors CJ Barrymore Racing could be pursuing a young driver. A lot of guys are going for the Craftsman regulars, which makes sense considering how competitive Craftsman is this year. But it shouldn't be underrated how valuable of an asset an experienced veteran is on your team, especially a guy like Chris Barrymore that has been there, done that. And as it stands for Barrymore, there's no more excuses. It's put up or shut up time. You got to perform. That's the bottom line. He has to perform. And there's no more excuses of, oh, I'm not getting the same equipment as Atwood. Oh, this, oh, that. You are driving the iconic number 5 car. Zero excuses. That's an honor in itself right there, considering only Randall and Ronnie Woods have ever stepped behind the wheel of the number 5. That is an incredibly iconic number in the ASCA. So Barrymore has to obviously perform in that number, in that ride, and we'll see if he's able to get the job done in 2026 and beyond throughout the rest of the decade. So I also want to talk briefly about the team's Craftsman signing. They did opt to not bring back Toby Beckett for next season, as Beckett does have a couple Ajax Cup offers that he's wanted to pursue. I think it's pretty mutual for both sides. Beckett has clearly not developed into the talent that we thought he would be. Some people speculated he could be better than Colin Ward, as they both came in the Craftsman series at the same time. Obviously, that did not happen, but yes. So Beckett obviously gone, and now the team brings in Matt Chamberlain, former dirt track ace, 21 years old. So he's on the older side, but he does come from that dirt background that Colin Ward does as well. And I like the signing overall. I think that obviously, as I mentioned, he's on the older side, but I think that helps him. You don't want to sign a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-old rookies. It is good to get an older guy in there every once in a while because they have more life experience. They come in more mature, and like a Colin Ward, like a Braden Bennett that we've seen moving up to the cup level, it's easier for them to adjust than it is being a 20, 19-year-old rookie, So for Chamberlain, I like the signing. I think he's certainly an upgrade from Beckett, and we'll see if he's able to get that number 8 car back up to the front of the grid in 2026. Moving on, we spent a lot of time rambling about the Ronnie Woods Motorsports signing, but obviously that's a pretty big deal, huge announcement there. And for the rest of the silly season, silly season pretty much breaking wide open after that announcement, because there's a lot of speculation that, hey, it could be Laquan Scranton going to the 5. But you already knew that Dexter Andrews Motorsports was never going to let Scranton leave from that contract, regardless of if he spent 20 years to life in jail. Dexter Andrews Motorsports will keep that man under contract until the end of time, until the day he dies, basically. It is a 10-year deal after all, and we've seen that team has one combined top 10 finish since Scranton went to jail. So that tells you all you need to know. Like, Dexter Andrews Motorsports was never going to let Scranton walk. That was never happening. It was never on the table. Anyways, we move on to the actual on-track action this weekend in the Mile High City. And Diego Orkedi, he proved on Saturday why he is a 4-time champion. And it's ironic that we're talking about Chris Barrymore making this huge career move on Tuesday afternoon, considering on Saturday, just a few days ago, Diego tied his father, CJ Barrymore, for second on the Cup Series all-time wins list with 28 Ajax Cup victories, his third of the season, and he cuts his deficit from 11 to 5 points heading into Ajax Superspeedway next week. And as for this race, I think this was a textbook. This is why Diego is he the GOAT? That's up for you to decide. But this is why he's a 4-time champion. 51 laps to go. He's starting on the outside for the restart, starting second. Nobody all weekend long had been getting good restarts on the outside. It was pretty simple. On the restarts, the inside car, the control car would get a big push from behind. He's got the bottom line. He had the advantage, and the deed would be done. well before, both drivers headed into turn one on the front row. In this case, though, Diego did an incredible job to be right on, just ahead of Healy, actually. Obviously, you can't see what I'm doing with my hands, but Orkedi was just ahead, slightly by like inches, at the line for the restart. Slightly beats him to the line, which again is legal. That's only illegal on the first lap where you get a penalty, but otherwise, in any other circumstance, it is certainly legal. Gets a huge shove from Warren Lester, which shouldn't be understated. Diego cannot make that move that he made on Healy without um, that massive shove from Lester. And then heading down into turn one, I don't understand how people can say that it does not take skill to drive an ASCA stock car. Because you look at go rewatch that final restart, or even go rewatch Jimmy Hood's breakdown that he posted, or that the ASCA social media team posted. Go rewatch that and tell me that it does not take skill to be elite in this business. The tactics that Diego used on the restart were picture perfect. Pinches Healy down to the inside, close to the inside wall. Healy has an acute angle. He can't really turn the car, get back in the throttle as quickly as he would like. Orkedi has a much wider angle on the outside lane, even though it's not the preferred line. He gets a wider angle. He gets a run off the corner, and he clears them. And Orkedi and Healy were pretty much equal all day. I know that the stat sheet says, "Oh, Healy led 81 laps." It seems like he was pretty dominant. No, they were pretty equal. Orkedi just started eighth. He needed track position. He did eventually drive his way up through the field, got the track position, and of course, ultimately got the track position on Healy at the end. It was a very similar situation to the Winders 300, where you knew that Orkedi and Schmidt were the two best cars. I mean, not Orkedi and Schmidt, Orkedi and Kidd were the two best cars all day, and it was going to be whoever got the track position. That was the case with Orkedi and Healy here, and Diego prevailed in the end. So obviously, this is a massive win for Diego. Absolutely no doubt about it. Huge. Finally snaps the Ronnie Woods Motorsports winless drought. His first victory since September 11th. That was over 2 months ago heading into this race. He needed this. He needed this in a big way. Todd Kidd's 3-race win streak is no more. And now you head into Ajax Superspeedway. Obviously, Todd Kidd has won the past two. What is it? Ajax 200s. But he's also, he's not, he also DNF'd in the Fastball 200 last year. So that kind of dichotomy just shows, like anything can happen. And the same goes for Diego. He is, DNF'd in, I think, his last three trips to Ajax Superspeedway. Well, we know that on his day, he's won this race multiple times. 2019, 2022, he won the 2021 Ajax 200. So, it is so tough. That's why these plate races are so unpredictable. And as we head into this race weekend under the lights, just 5 races remain in 2025. Just 5 points separate Diego Orkedi and Todd Kidd. And like we just talked about, Ajax Superspeedway is such a toss-up. It is such a toss-up. You cannot predict anything that's going to happen here. But we head to the Northern 200 the following week. And I actually believe that's an advantage Kidd race. And I know it sounds crazy to say that Diego doesn't have the advantage at the Stoneyard, of all places, a track that he is still the all-time wins leader at, despite not having won there since 2021. But hear me out. Todd Kidd in these crown jewel events, what is it, 5 straight top 2 finishes or something ridiculous. Big Race Kid is what they need to start calling him because he shows up in these big spots and he's done it all season. He finally had a letdown race last week, but he was under the weather. Ronnie Woods Motorsports as a whole just weren't as quick as they have been. Obviously, they had won 5 straight races. That's a historic streak. We had never seen dominance like that before this season. So, but I do think that it's still going to be advantage Todd Kidd in this race. But I will say, don't be surprised if we see another 2022 scenario. I'll just leave it at that. So whoever's in third place, they should have a fun time if it's going to be Kidd and Orkedi battling for the race win there. Then we move on to Computer Motor Speedway, and we saw the fantastic fight that Diego and Kidd had in that race. Could very well see the same thing again. They both had equal cars that night. This race going to be during the day. It seemed like Diego kind of had the advantage during the day, so I would give the advantage to him. But I mean, they were equal, so it's hard. And Kidd obviously came out on top in the Windows 300, has won the Windows 300 back-to-back years. He won the Apple 225 as well in 2022. So it's like, I don't know. You just don't know. That just goes to show how insane this title fight has been. Then we had to West Virginia. That one I think is pretty distinct advantage Diego. He's won 3 out of the last 4 races there. Orkedi Racing has won the last 4 races there, and Orkedi was absolutely dominant there earlier this season. I don't see why he wouldn't find a way to win that one as well. And then Belltown, that's advantage Kidd, and it's a pretty distinct advantage Kidd considering Diego. That's one of 2 tracks that he's never won at his home circuit. I mean, he could obviously change that like he did at Denver, but he just seems cursed at Belltown for some reason. And Todd Kidd has obviously won there multiple times. Won his first race there back in 2019. Who's to say he can't win there to win his first championship in 2025? I wouldn't put it past him, certainly, especially considering we know Greg Healy and Cameron Atwood are both vulnerable on these short tracks. So I would say that there's only really a couple races where there's a distinct advantage, and that's West Virginia and Belltown. And it's split 1-1. The other 3, though, leading into those 2 are complete toss-ups. So with that in mind, it's going to be crazy to watch these last 5 weeks. Who will come out on top? Who will crack under the pressure? I cannot wait to find out, to say the least. It's gonna be insane, man. It's going to be insane. Now we have another question posed, and I know we've been doing a lot of talk about Diego Orkedi throughout this podcast so far, but will Diego crack 30 victories by the end of next season? I think the answer is yes. Honestly, I really do. I know he's 34, but he doesn't seem to be showing any times of stopping or slowing down anytime soon. Honestly, he just only seems to be getting better and better and better and further improving his racecraft as the years go on. And I know he's not winning 3 races a year like he had during that ridiculous stretch from 2018 to 2021, where he won 3 times, 3 times, 3 times, 4 times. Like, he's not as dominant since the switch to the new Mustang, but hey, he has won 3 times this season. Could very well win 3 times next year, and that would put him 1 behind Ronnie Woods for that all-time wins mark. Do I think he gets the all-time wins mark by the end of next season? I don't. unless he wins another one this year, then I'd say it's plausible, but I don't. But I certainly believe he will get it at some point within the next few years, at least by the end of his contract in 2028, 2029, I believe, one of those 2 years. Um, he's going to get there, honestly. And you never know. It could be a situation like Randall Woods where he just nosedives and falls off a cliff um, if he loses the championship this season, like Wood seemingly did after losing out to Atwood in 2023. But Orkedi just seems to be that extra margin better than Woods. And I don't know what he does to take care of his body or, what he's using to extract that extra performance that Woods just didn't have when he reached the stage of his career, because Woods posted his first ever winless season, at least his first since his rookie year, um, in his age 34 campaign, coming off winning the championship. Diego backed up winning the championship by going out and winning 3 straight races and potentially winning another one. So, yeah, Diego, I don't think he's going to slow down anytime soon. I think he's going to crack 30 very soon. I think he's going to crack Randall Woods' all-time wins mark very soon as well. Now, let's talk a little bit of Craftsman series action before we move on to Ajax Super Speedway. And the points lead has changed hands for the first time since the Michigan road course. Sean Wooden. Here's some things to put into perspective for Sean Wooden's season. He has no wins. He has no poles. He has no laps led. But the key here for Wooden, he has no DNFs. And that's exactly why he's leading the point standings right now. 6 top 5s, 8 top 10s, just like Del Valle. But he hasn't had the flashy season like the rookie Tony Del Valle has had. He's been consistent and a growing thorn in Del Valle's side, and now he's got the points lead. And I think the major question that kind of asked here is the 18-year-old rookie Tony Del Valle starting to crack underneath the immense amount of pressure that he's on? And obviously, being in a championship fight is pressure enough, being that you're only a teenager, you're going up against a former Cup Series winner multiple times. He's 35 years old. He's been there, done that, like pretty much every season leading up to this one. And, in Wooden's case, he has come out short each time. But Sean Wooden, experienced veteran, easily one of the best drivers in Craftsman Series history, I would say. That's a tough guy to go up against. And we've seen the guys that have come out on top of one head to head in these title fights like these, Laquan Scranton, Colin Ward, they've been special talents at the cup level. So, beating Wooden, that is a badge of honor right there. But you factor in the pressure of the championship fight. You factor in the pressure of Michael White Racing kind of relying on you to be their future. The immense amount of talent that he's had, immense amount of spotlight that Del Valle has had, the immense amount of spotlight that Del Valle has been under since signing with Michael White Racing at 15 years old, since being an ASCA Next member at age 16. And a lot of that is due to his father, Anthony Del Valle. And that's another huge reason why I think Del Valle is under a lot of pressure and he's starting to crack. We saw it in practice. He totaled his car, had to start at the rear. That's why he lost the points lead. His father, Anthony Del Valle, I think is doing more harm than good to his son's career. And now we're hearing rumors that Anthony's trying to pressure Flores into putting the rookie Tony, up into a cup ride for next year. And it's like, man, obviously he's been calling for his crew chief, Adam Steinbach, to be fired for numerous weeks now. And I think Steinbach has done an outstanding job with Del Valle this season. This 20 car wasn't even close to title contention last year. So for them to be as fast as they've been this year, a lot of that is certainly due to Del Valle, but it's also due to Steinbach giving the rookie what he needs to be successful. So, I think that the pressure is starting to be too much for him. And like I said, he's only 18 years old. This is the kid that was just born in 2007. He's still a baby, man. He's still incredibly young. And he's obviously having to go through a ton right now. And especially in a title fight such as this, I think he's starting to crack. And I think that Sean Wooden is starting to sunset as well. And as we head to Ajax Super Speedway this week, Del Valle was incredible there his first time out, finishing runner-up to Nick Painter, I believe. Man, if he cannot get a good result in the Citibank 100, he's going to have an uphill battle these last 3 races trying to bounce back. Because Sean Wooden, when he's on a run, man. You can't stop him. So we'll see. We shall see on the rookie there. Moving on. It's time to predict the unpredictable. Ajax Super Speedway. It needs no introduction. And if you do think it needs an introduction, go watch the season opening races and tell me that it needs an introduction. I don't really know what to say here. It's not like we can analyze data, we can analyze telemetry. What more can you do? Other than go out on the track, you qualify, which is basically a random draw where the Chevys have an incredible advantage. They're just hooked up in qualifying, but qualifying means nothing for this race. Todd Kidd or Diego Orkedi could win pole. They could go out and finish last. Qualifying means nothing. They could start last. They can win the race. So who knows what to expect on Friday and Saturday nights? I got no idea. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea what to say here. And I have no idea what to even predict here. So I'm just going to go with some random predictions because I don't really know what to say. Obviously, the racing is going to be incredible. Keys to the race, avoid the big one, try to survive for lap 50 in the Craftsman race, lap 100 in the Cup race, and you should have a shot. Especially for the Fastenal 200, considering this race has been an absolute crapshoot these past couple of years. It was a Tico Bound Motorsports 1-2-3 finish last year. And then the Craftsman race the day prior, the championship contenders all finished 1-2-3. So it's like, this is just such a, who knows? You genuinely can't predict this at all. And it's Russian roulette out there. So I won't make any predictions. I won't throw any names out there. I will throw some names out there. Todd Kidd won the last 2 Ajax 200s. Why not? Doug Bound has won 2 out of the last 4 Fastenal 200s. Why not? Ross Jackson and Jared Ayers, both looking for redemption for their final lap Ajax 200 collision. They could win. Who knows? It's just, you really don't know, man. You just don't. And then for the Craftsman race, it's another one of those, who knows? Especially with Cup drivers like Devin Smith and Tommy Woods in the race. It's just, I got no idea, man. I'm just going to sit back, grab my popcorn, and just like you guys, and enjoy this weekend of racing under the lights. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of chaos, calamity, silly season news, and all that other good stuff to wrap up when we meet again next week. So yeah, this is Charles Fallon signing out. We'll see you after a wild weekend upcoming from Ajax Super Speedway.